I think we had some audio issues there, and no one could hear me. That's sad. You should be able to hear me now, though. All right. Easy. Already getting bots in chat. Let's go. So anyway, I'm going to be starting with this Gut Ripper flesh. It's a lighter green color here. And yeah, we're just going to be applying this all over all the skin. Thanks, Tyler. The reason I'm starting with this color here is because it is it's a bit lighter. So if I get it on any of the other parts, the darker colors will just cover over it, and I won't have to fix any of the issues or any of the mistakes that I make. So it just makes painting a little bit faster, a little bit less tedious. Another thing that you can do if you are if you're using contrast paints is they do take a little bit to dry. So if you get a little bit on an area that you don't want it, you can just rinse off your brush and wipe it away, and then it just comes right off. Really, did not get nearly enough paint on my palette. That's okay though. I'm actually going to switch to a finer brush here because most of the skin is in some hard to reach places. And you can see as it dries, it also kind of pools a little bit in some of the recesses. So you get an overall consistent mid-tone, but you also get more color in some of the shadows. No. So this color was not sent with the box. They tend to send base and layer paints in the boxes, which are fine, but in terms of speed yeah, contrast paints are a lot faster to work with than base and layer paints, because if you can see, I have on this model already a nice shade and highlight with one layer of paint. A lot of times with base and layer paints, you have to do multiple layers to get a consistent base coat, and then you have to do a couple layers with a layer paint to get a highlight, and you have to apply a shade to get shadows. Contrast paint just happens to give you a lot more value per layer of paint. And we love value here, so. Now, sometimes I will do multiple layers of contrast paint, and usually that's because I dilute the contrast paint a bit, because I'm not sure how dark I want the color to be. But yeah, usually you can get away with just one layer of contrast paint, and that's it. I will also occasionally apply shades to the contrast paint, but for the most part, you don't need to. It's a yucky shade of green. It is. It is kind of a. It is a more yellow green. This is. I chose this color because it matches kind of how they look in the box art. The lore for this faction is that they're a bunch of orcs that live in like a swamp. So their skin color more matches the gross colors that you would find in a swamp. Yeah, kind of like Shrek, actually. Alright, I think that's all the green for now. Some of these details on the arm that's holding the shield, I'm not quite sure what they are. Sometimes that happens, and as you paint more of the model, some of the details become more clear. So if you're looking at something and you're not quite sure what it is, just paint what you are sure, and the other stuff will get more clear later. So next, we're actually going to do this kind of rope binding, and this stuff you can actually just use a shade here. This is Agrax Earthshade. Because of the pre-work I did, making it this this light tan color, the shade will tint it enough that it kind of acts like a contrast paint. So we just apply this over here, and what we'll end up with is kind of a light brown rope. And you'll see me using lots of different browns. There are a lot of things on this model that are brown, and so to keep it interesting, we're gonna try and make all the browns distinctly different colors. And so having one be just a shade over the base coat helps make it a very distinct and separate brown. For people starting in the hobby, I would swamps do have a lot of brown, and I'll be using some warmer colors too, so it'll be like a more reddish brown, especially for, like, you can see all this leather that's like draped off of him. That'll be a warmer brown. For people that are starting off and don't know which colors to pick, I would recommend the Citadel Colors app. I believe it is available for both Android and iPhone. And in there, you can search up whatever model you're trying to paint. And when you look that up, it'll tell you the colors that the colors that you need to paint that model, and a little bit of how to do it. So it'll be like, all right, for the blue on the model, you need this base color, this layer color, and this shade. And then if you know how to apply base coats, shades, and layers, you should be able to figure it out from there. If you don't, you can check out my video. I have a video on my channel on how to do base coating, layering, and shading. So you can check that out. Cool. Oh, I think there's also a bit on his... Yeah. So this, actually, I'll use a more finer detail brush here, because I don't want to get any of this brown on the green that I already did, because then I would have to re-base coat with like the tan color, and then come back in with the contrast paint. That is one of the downsides of using contrast paint, is that if you make a mistake, it's fairly hard to fix that mistake. So you do just have to be a little bit more careful than usual when using this method of painting. Cool. Oh yeah, you'll find a lot of stuff in this hobby is spelled a bit weirdly, because it does use the British spellings for just about everything, because it is based in Britain. So next I'm going to use this Cygor Brown, and this is going to be the base coat for all the leather, but I will go over with this layer paint, a very, very transparent layer of this layer paint, to make some of the leather a more reddish brown as opposed to this this dark brown. And you have to be very careful with some of the brown contrast paints, because they are, as you can see on my palette, they are very dark and very strong. So I'm actually going to do like a 50-50 mix. Actually, I might go even more. So this is like a 2-to-1 ratio of contrast medium to the Cygor Brown, and you can see it's still very dark. Actually, here, let me bring it up so you guys can see here. It is still very dark at the 2-to-1 ratio. And again, we'll be using a finer brush. Just to make sure that we don't make any mistakes. We have a lot of control over where the paint is going. And you can see some of this stuff I don't care. Like a lot of the armor, I will be painting with a base coat of metallic paint. And so that you don't really have to worry about. It'll cover up any mistakes. Again, part of the reason that we're doing the colors in the order that I am is to make it so that any mistakes you make, you don't have to fix. They'll just get fixed in the next step. contrast paint is also really satisfying to put on, because it's very thin consistency. Your brush just kind of glides along the model, and the paint flows into all the recesses. Can you guys still hear me? All right, cool. Someone's feeding me false information. All right. Cool. It's especially on the back of this draped leather. You have to be very careful not to get any on the skin. But this is probably the hardest part of painting this model. The rest of it is not too skill intensive. And in my video on kind of painting basics, so this is an example of when you paint more of the model, the details will become more clear. This is 100% skin. Right here, you can see between like the leg leather and this leather, but sometimes it's really hard to tell when everything's the same color, and so just as you're painting more of the model, other details become clear, because there's more differentiation between the details on the model. So we'll just come back in with our green real quick and paint this skin before we forget about it. But anyway, in my video on painting basics, I recommended that you spray paint in black. And so actually painting the back of this, the hanging leather, isn't as necessary if you spray paint it in black, because, well, it'll look like it's in shadow, and you won't be able to see it as well. So nobody will care if that's black as opposed to dark brown. So you actually don't even have to worry about painting that bit if you primed it black. The downside, though, is that you can't apply contrast paint over black. So, yeah. To answer your question, why didn't I prime this one in black? It's because I was planning on using contrast paint, and so using the lighter color allows you to use contrast paint as opposed to using regular paints, which just speeds up the painting process a bit. You could. Yeah, it is. It is Warhammer Shrek. He's a. He's an ogre that lives in a swamp. It's and that's actually canon lore. He does not come with a donkey, actually. I used ogre because I used the word ogre because that's what Shrek is. He's technically an orc, but you know, same. All right, so I have the base coat for the leather done, and actually I think there's a little bit more here that needs to be done. And so now what I'm gonna do, can we make him a donkey? Oh, are you asking if I can sculpt a donkey? All right. I don't think I can sculpt a donkey. Although there are a lot of third-party miniature makers that I might be able to find a miniature donkey. Think of the meme. Yeah. I'm thinking. So now what I'm gonna do is, like I said, there's a lot of brown on this mini. So I'm actually going to apply a glaze of this Doombull brown over some of the leather bits in order to give it a more red color. Now, when you're doing this, you want a little bit of layer paint, and then you want to dilute it down a lot. And I'll show you the wet palette here so that you can kind of see what I'm talking about. And I'll also show it on like my thumb. The whole point of this is just to tint the color of a part of the model, not cover it. So if you see my wet palette here, you can see the kind of consistency that I'm looking for. And when I apply it here, you can see it's very transparent. So now we're just going to, you can see it's the model has like, it's not a consistent piece of leather. It's a bunch of different pieces of leather like strapped together. So you just kind of pick like every other piece of leather, and we're just gonna tint it like a reddish brown instead of this, I don't know, brown. And that'll add some interest to the leather parts of the model. Fun bonus is that red is across the color wheel from green, so colors that contrast each other tend to pop out a bit more, and that's what we like to see. we like contrast. It's kind of the name of the game. Not to be confused with the contrast paints, of course. Alright. So you should be able to see the effect start to come in. And as we highlight the leather, I'll choose different browns as my highlight colors so that they're like differentiated even further. Yeah, it's more of an orange. So let me see if I can pull it out here. So this is like the color that I'm gonna use for like the regular brown leather, and then this is the color I'll be using for like the more reddish brown leather. So it's more of orange than red or yellow, but yeah, it is pretty orange. Let's see here. All right, now that we've got the base layers for the leather done, and we've tinted some of the sections of it, I'm gonna start working on the base coats for the metal. And so we're just gonna be using this lead belcher color. Nothing too fancy about it. And the reason I'm hopping around colors and I'm getting all the base coats down is that if I make a mistake, it's easier to fix that mistake now when I've just done base coats, as opposed to if I do all the highlighting and stuff and I make a mistake, I'll have to do all of those steps over again. So you kind of get all the base colors down, make sure that you do any touch-ups and fix any mistakes that you've made, and then you move on to highlighting, because that then if you make any mistakes, it's just easier to fix them. So this is a base paint, and I didn't directly dilute it, but one of the benefits of using a wet palette is that you can do something called pushing the paint into the palette. And so because there's water underneath, and you can actually see when I touch the palette with my finger, like I pull up water, So if you if you apply pressure with the brush and draw it along the palette, you pull water up into the brush, diluting the paint. And so as long as you can kind of pull it along the palette, you don't always need to directly dilute the paint to get it to be a good consistency. It's actually it's really hard to cover up metallic paint when you make a mistake, especially with I've been using these contrast paints that don't cover really well. So to fix any mistakes, I would have to come in with like this bone color to apply a base coat and cover up the mistake, and then I would come back in with the contrast paint over it. But yeah, in general, if you get metallic paint in the wrong spot, you just have to wait for it to dry and then come back in with a base paint and cover it up. Sometimes with paint, you can, if you move fast enough, you can like rinse off your brush and wipe it off the model. However, with metallic paints, because they have like actual metal in the paints, the metal can just like spread along your model, and then you get like random shiny bits instead of completely removing the paint. So another reason I'm using a pretty precise brush, because I really don't want to get this anywhere else that I don't want it to be. Maybe I'll paint the top of this like his like crown thing a different color, similar to how there's a bunch of leather that's it's better if you paint. Yeah, you have some differentiation in the leather colors. It's the same thing for metallics. I mean, you can have all the metallics be one color, but it's more interesting if you have different colors. So maybe I'll come in with like a copper or a brass color. I don't really want to do gold because, as we were talking about before, this model is it lives in a swamp. I don't know if a pristine gold crown is really in character here. I guess I could just look at the box art, see what color they do it. They always do a really good job of painting. And this shoulder pad I'm actually going to paint red because his shield is going to be red. And so having the shoulder pad match his shield, I think will look really good. So we're going to come in with this Flesh Terrors red here. And we're going to apply it to his shoulder instead of using the metallic paint that we've been using. You can see it's a pretty vibrant red, which is fun. And I am going to do the same thing to the shield. This will attach to his left arm. I'll show you here in a sec. So I finish up. I actually, the connection point, I stuck the paper clip into the connection point, because that was honestly the easiest place where if I drill through it, it wasn't going to make any, it wasn't going to damage the model in any way. And you can see there's like these are the push fit models, so it just connects right here on this part of his arm. This is just one of the options too. I think there's like he can be holding a mace instead of the shield. But I thought the shield was pretty cool, so I decided to go with the shield. It looks pretty scary too, so it's got like an angry face on it with a bunch of teeth. All right. So there's a bunch of studs on the shield. I'll just be painting those with the same metallic color. And there's I think a few places that need some touch-ups. There's also some rope that I missed before. Then I'm going to start applying shades. So, or actually, I'm going to have to do the, what's it called? The haft of his axe. I think that's what it's called. Whatever. The stick that the axe is attached to. And that's going to be a different brown. I don't. Is it called a shaft? I don't know why I thought it was just. Maybe it is. Maybe I'm overthinking it. Yeah, it's haft. I know what I'm talking about. Now, if you ask me why I know that the stick that an axe is attached to is called a haft, I couldn't tell you. I got nothing. That's just a weird bit of knowledge that's stuck in my brain for some reason. Yes, now for the rest of your life, you will also know that the stick that's attached to an axe is called a haft. And you can pull that out as like a fun party trick. Oh, wow. That's more than just axes. That's funny. All right. So, I think well, I said I was going to do the haft of the spear, and then I just completely forgot about it. I'm going to be using a different brown here. It has a little bit more black in it than the Cygor brown, which is a bit warmer. So it should look different. And of course I did not get nearly enough paint on my palette. That's okay though. Thank you. I tried very hard on the haft. All right. I also might as well do some of the other colors. I talked about using a different metallic color, so I'll go ahead and do that. I'm gonna use this brass color for like the tips of his crown, I guess. Kind of looks like a crown. There's also a little bit on the axe. It's like the bit that connects the axe to the haft. That I'm going to paint this other color as well. Just to add some more interest. To the weapon, I think I'm going to keep like the nails that are sticking out, that regular silver color though. All right. I'm also going to clean up and get some of the rope that I didn't get. There are these like knots of rope here that are like hanging off in if I can get it in focus, like hanging off in random places. In like the box art, those are painted blue, and I really like that, having like nice spots of blue on the model. So that's what I'm gonna do. That's why I'm not painting those brown, because I'll be painting those blue later. But I think I'm gonna do those last, because I think likely I'll paint over it or like make a mistake, so I'm just not even gonna try it yet. And now that I've got some more of the colors painted, I can see some of the arm on that's attached to the shield is exposed, so we can paint that green. And then there's some brown here. And some silver. Alright. So now, we're going to move on to some shades. So, I think the first shade I'm going to do is I'm going to use this, oh, you can't even see. This one's been destroyed. It's Beal Tan Green. It's just a nice dark green shade. And we're going to apply this to his skin. And the reason, you can see the reason it's destroyed is because when I put it into this paint holder, it's just a little bit too big. And so you just like smush it down in there. All good. I know what color it is. And I'm actually going to dilute this a bit because I do want to keep that like yellowish color. Yeah, I could 3D print one slightly bigger, but it's just easier to just smush it in there. And so this is going to just add a bit more green to the skin and darken some of the recesses. Another benefit of applying a shade is that it helps separate different parts of the model because the darker color of the shade settles into the recesses. It settles into the part of the model in between like the skin and the leather. And so there's a dark line that separates it and kind of helps differentiate the two pieces. Alright, so you should see now a little bit more of the details are a little more defined, and the skin is a little bit more green. So we're going to do a similar thing to a couple other parts. I'm going to be using I'm going to be using Nuln Oil here for the leather. And for the silver metallics. The brass metallics get a different color. And this will just darken everything a little bit. And again, separate some of the different pieces a bit better. And as you're doing this, sometimes you'll see little mistakes, little parts that you missed. You can just go ahead and touch those up real quick. Although some of this stuff is not going too well. Might have to come in with a base color. Let's see if I can find a good one. Yeah, that's one of the main benefits of using a wet palette is that your paints kind of stay wet for longer. So if I do find a place that I missed or I make a mistake and have to go back, I don't have to get out new paint. Now in this case I did because the mistakes require a little bit more coverage than the contrast paints give, and so I need to come in with like a thicker paint. So I went ahead and grabbed this base paint, Auric Flesh. It's like the oops, I keep dropping them. It's like the base paint equivalent to the contrast paint that I was using. Alright, and this is actually a good spot to point out some differences. If you see, this is the redder leather with the Nuln Oil applied, and this is the redder leather without the Nuln Oil applied. And same thing, this is the normal brown with Nuln Oil. This is the normal brown without Nuln Oil. So you can kind of see the effect that it has. I'm also going to apply it to the red. And so as you can see, Nuln Oil is kind of the most versatile of the shades because it's black. Just about anything can be shaded with black and have it look good. There are some cases where you don't want to use it. For example, the skin. Skin generally has warmer tones to it, and so when you apply black to it, it looks too cold. And well, in this case, our skin was green, so the warmer tones doesn't really apply, but I would use a brown color to shade skin as opposed to black. On a similar note, for a lot of metallics other than silver, I use like a Reichland Flesh Shade, which is like a warmer light brown. This really helps differentiate it from the silver. Whereas if you use Nuln Oil, it starts to look the same. And we picked a different color on purpose, so we want it to be distinct. And this kind of just helps differentiate it. I use this flesh shade for like gold as well. And copper. Like I said, basically any metallic that's not silver. I'm using this Reichland Flesh Shade. Alright. This stuff is gonna have to dry for a little bit. So I'm gonna try and find something to do where I won't make any mistakes. We're going to start with hey Will, how's it going? I'm going to start with using this Wraithbone color. It's a really light tan. And as you can see, I didn't really I wasn't too careful around these knots that I said I was going to paint blue. And so one trick you can do with contrast paints is that you can just do like an overbrush as opposed to doing a full base coat. This just takes, you kind of run the paint, or you run the paintbrush like parallel to the model, so it just hits the top details. Because more of the paint settles in the recesses with contrast paints, it's more opaque in the recesses as well, and so you don't really have to the mistakes that you made that ran into the recesses, you don't really have to fix those. They'll be covered by the opacity of the paint. All right. So now that we've touched up any of the mistakes that we made, I'm going to come in with a blue color. I think I'm going to pick like this very vibrant blue, and I'm going to dilute it a bit before applying it. This is an accent color, so I do want it to kind of pop off the model. And it's always fun when you're almost done painting like your accent colors and then you realize there's a big like section of the model that you missed. That's exciting. I love that. Yeah, well, are you inspired? You know, drive down to Epic Loot and pick up some minis to paint? Yeah, he doesn't live in Ohio. Yeah, Will, you missed it. I had a bot come in here and ask me to pay for viewers. Yeah, for real. I need somebody to just sit here and ban all the bots. I'll pay him. I'll pay him 1 Bitcoin a month. No, no, it was like an actual bot. So it's looking pretty good. We finally have like everything base coated and shades applied. So at this point, you could just stop and call it done. Um, and this is already better than like tabletop ready. But take it a little bit further, it'll look cooler. Oh, I guess I just forgot to apply a shade to this part of the model. That's fun. Let me find it real quick. That's okay. I'll just make Jenna mod. It'll be her job. And then I can yell at her when she doesn't do her job right. Drinking stream when? Uh, bro, it's like 1 o'clock. Although, thanks for reminding me to drink water. I appreciate that. All right. So I'm gonna start with highlighting some of the red, because I think that'll be quick and easy, and it'll pop off the model. It'll look cool, and I like some easy wins. You know, get a quick, like, hit a dopamine from completing a task that looks good. So I start off with, I'm now using like layer paints. So this scarlet color, and then like an orangish red. Start with the scarlet color, and you just want to kind of avoiding the recesses, because we want to keep those a very dark red. We're just going to pick out some of the details here. I should have done this before I did the metal rivets. Would have made it a bit easier, but that's okay. You live and you learn, right? And so now you can see the face a bit better. And then we'll come in with the more orange color here, and painting inside the scarlet that we painted. We'll just add a bit more punch to the highlights. And there you go. Looking pretty good. We're going to do the same thing for the shield. And actually, I think I'll paint his teeth a different color. It super doesn't want to focus on the shield. That's funny. Alright, there we go. Another reason I'm doing the shield is because it's one of the cooler parts of the model. Thoughts on Costco cookie? Bro, Costco cookies are top tier. I don't know who makes those, but whoever came up with that recipe is a genius. Are you eating Costco cookies right now? Is that why you asked? They replaced the churro? Can no longer buy churros at Costco? What? Oh, with the cookie? Wait, that's kind of odd. Like you're talking about like where you buy the $1.50 hot dogs? Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. Actually, I'm really excited for that change. I would rather have the cookie. How much is it? So it's $1.50 for uh it's $1.50 for a hot dog and a drink. How much extra for a cookie to add on to that? Two something? Sheesh. So like a $4 meal in this economy? Sheesh. I need to go to Costco. Well, it had a dot in it. Obviously, it's a link. The real question is, was it linked to? Don't click on it. Restaurant week at Costco? Nah, that'll be so expensive. It'll go up to like $50 a lunch. Yeah, so anyway, before we got completely derailed with Costco conversation. The reason I'm painting the shield, I'm doing these highlights on the shield, is because the shield is one of the cooler. No, you're good, Will. It's one of the cooler parts of the model. So you don't have to spend a lot of time and effort painting the whole model with all these highlights. So instead, just pick like your favorite parts or some of the focal points of the model to focus on, and that'll get it'll make your model cooler, but also it won't take forever. Obviously, if you're like entering in a painting competition, you'll have to paint everything to a really high level, but for just your own regular use, you don't have to paint everything to a really high level for it to look really good. You just pick a few pieces and just focus on those, and it'll start to look really good. So yeah, I am going to paint his teeth. So I'm going to start off with this like Morghast bone color. And then we're going to shade it and highlight it just a little bit because I think the teeth are cool. So we'll spend some time on them. But we need to be pretty careful to make sure we don't, especially now that we've gone and highlighted the red. Ugh. Don't want to have to redo all that. let this dry here before we apply a shade. While we're waiting for that to dry fully, let's see, I can start highlighting the leather. So earlier I said that I would paint the leather with 2 different colors, and I actually think I'm going to change those colors up a bit. I'm still going to use this like orange brown to highlight the redder bits, but I'm going to use this I don't know, this brown to highlight the other leather. I'm running out of ways to describe brown. I promise it's different. And mostly we're going to be focusing on the edges. This is called edge highlighting. It's swampier brown. Yeah, that's the word. And when you focus on the edges, it tends to like frame your frame the details a bit better. Makes them pop off the model. We love that. We love things popping off the model. Especially when you're playing with the models on the tabletop, you want people to be able to see how cool your models look from a distance, and so that's one of the main driving factors. When I say it pops off the model, I just mean that it's easier to see from a distance, and people will see it on the tabletop, which is what's important. Yeah, exactly. When you roll up to play the game and they're like, "Oh wow, this guy's models, they look sick." You've already won. Don't even need to play the game to know that you just won. Yeah, it's actually called the rule of cool. The real winner is whoever has the cooler looking models. Not quite. All right. And the final highlight that we are going to do for the redder leather is we're going to use this light ochre color. And we are just going to be doing, it's going to be a very reserved highlight. These are called like point highlights. And their goal is to be very bright and to so you're just painting like the very tips of the leather, and this helps draw your eyes to specific details. All right, so you can see I'm kind of done with the leather for now. It's looking pretty good. See you later, Will. And I think I'm gonna apply this this bone color that I was using to kind of the strings that are holding the various pieces of leather together. To distinguish them from the leather itself. So that way you can see the individual strings that are like holding this ragged leather together. Looks pretty cool. All right. I'm coming down to the end of the stream here. So we're just going to add a few more finishing touches. One of which is going to be highlighting the haft of the axe. We're just going to do that really quickly here. And I'm choosing to do this because It'll only take like one layer of paint to kind of bring it up. Same thing, I'm gonna apply a little bit of silver back because I shaded the silver with the Nuln Oil. It's a bit more muted, a little less shiny. Oh. One thing that's very important is that sometimes when you close the paint, it'll like squirt out the back and can get on your fingers. You got to be very careful because then you can end up with like metallic fingerprints on your model, and that's a big whoopsie. We don't like that. Oh yeah, personal experience, yeah. That's not fun to fix. Because it's usually on a part of the model that you thought was done and like you wouldn't have to touch anymore. And then you're like, oh, well, now there's a giant fingerprint. Now I have to like repaint everything, which is sad. So yeah, again, I'm just gonna kind of going along the edges so that the edges stand out a bit more. Takes very little time, and it looks nice. And there you go. It took roughly 2 hours. You saw how it started. It was just kind of all a tan bone color. Oh, I forgot to shade the teeth. We can't leave those unshaded. No. Not since the shield's gonna be front and center on the model. Can't have those looking subpar. So we're gonna shade those real quick, and then I'll glue it on. Yeah, 2 hours start to finish to paint this model, and it's looking pretty good. The last step is just to kind of yoink out. Where's my clippers? Clippers are somewhere. Yank out these clips that I added and glue it on. Probably have to clean out this joint a little bit. And one thing when you're painting in subassembly is that you generally want to scrape away any paint that got on the connecting bits. This is because the plastic glue reacts with the plastic, not acrylic paint. So the plastic glue won't really do its job. It won't adhere well if it's all painted. So scrape away some of the paint so it has a clean kind of surface, and then it'll do its thing. Maybe. Let me scrape away a bit more. Another thing is if you have push fit models, it's a pretty tight fit. I swear this is supposed to fit. There we go. Alright. I don't like these push fit models. A lot of times I can't figure out how to, like sometimes they just don't fit properly. So I'm just going to clip off the little knob and glue it on directly. I will have to hold it here for a bit because I made the connection myself. But it was just not fitting. All right. And there we go. Oh my god, as soon as I took my hand away too. That's so funny. Alright. So this is what the completed model looks like. Obviously there's some more stuff I could do, but this is 2 hours of work. Thanks for joining. I hope you learned something. You enjoyed it. And I'll do this stream every week, so come join me next week.